folder or a Wadder? I have a good friend who likes to ask somewhat off-the-wall questions like that, just out of the blue or maybe during a lull in a conversation. At the video store, the young gal comes up and asks, "May I help you find something? I'm looking for basketballs." "You mean basketball?" No, I'm looking for basketballs." "We have the movie Basketball?" "No, basketballs. They're about that big around." "At McDonald's." The cashier, "Do you take Hawaiian money?" "More often than not. I'm going to have to ask my manager about that one." Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. My wife and I were over at this couple's house for dinner and a movie. After the movie, we were visiting a little bit. During a lull in the conversation, Steve turns to me and says, "Are you a folder or a Wadder?" I'm not sure what that is. What are you talking about? "Do you fold or wad your toilet paper?" I go, "Well, wad, I guess." Up until that point, I had no idea there was more than one way to do it. Back when I was employed, part of my job, most of my job was driving around Wyoming and Montana. So I'm driving along and I'm trying to write down different ideas for speech topics. Folder or Wadder comes to my mind, and I think, what can you do with folder and Wadder in a speech? But I wrote it down anyway because, you never know. I Googled folder or Wadder and came up with a lot of hits. The thing that amazed me the most was there was actually someone else in the world that had pondered that question. I found out that 54% of Americans fold their toilet paper as opposed to wadding it. Not to be outdone by this poll, I bought the website folderorwadder.com and I put up my own poll. My poll respondents, 70% of them are folders. UrbanDictionary.com defines a folder as, and I'm going to read this so I don't make a mistake, it's a technical term used by the toilet paper industry to describe a person who neatly folds the toilet paper over itself before cleansing themselves. Several things that were used, there were a number of things that were used before toilet paper was invented or readily available, such as pages from old books or catalogs, moss, and corn cobs. Corn cobs? What? Who came up with the idea of using corn cobs, and how did he do it? You suppose he was eating corn one night? He looked at the cob. "Hey, Maud, I've got a great idea. Save the corn cobs tonight and put them out in the outhouse." And then, how exactly would you use a corn cob? I mean, pages from a magazine or a catalog. Moss, that's pretty self-explanatory. But a corn cob? I don't know how you'd use that. I did find out, though, that they hung the corn cob by a string to be reused, or for people that were a little bit more prosperous and had an abundance of cobs, they'd have a box of corn cobs beside the toilet or outhouse that were disposable. Another thing I learned was that Sheryl Crow had been flying around the country in her private jet trying to get the rest of us to conserve. She said, I'm going to read this again so I don't misquote this mental giant, "There should be a limit on the number of squares of toilet paper that can be used in any one city." Now, just what we need, toilet paper police telling us how much toilet paper we can use. She went on, We are an industrious enough people that we can make it work with only 1 square of toilet paper per restroom visit, except for those pesky situations where 2 or 3 might be required. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be shaking this woman's hand. Now, on a hunch, I went to Cheryl's website because I wasn't sure about this. This woman is a blonde. Now, this is just an observation. I'm not saying anything about blondes, but we've heard all the blonde jokes. They might not be jokes, they may be true. Now, before this speech goes too far down the toilet, I'll leave you with this. Remember, the next time that there's a lull in the conversation, you can ask, are you a folder or a Wadder? Mr.